So hello and welcome onto the call, everyone. This is Tony Restel from Social Hire. Delighted you could join us today as we have a live Q&A session talking about whatever challenges you're facing in the digital marketing, social media marketing space for recruiters. I'm thrilled to be joined this afternoon by Giles Guest. Giles is Director of Enhanced Media, and many of you will have seen Giles present before. Very well known in the industry and a real font of knowledge on this topic, so really looking forward to hearing his ideas and picking his brains as well. So Giles, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. I've had confirmation through from some of you that you can hear the sound okay, so we'll press on. What I'd like to do on these sessions is just share a few ideas with you at the outset, give you some things to take away that you could change in your business or implement, and then we'll open things up to questions. So those of you coming onto the call, you should see a question box over on the right-hand side of the screen. You're very welcome to put questions through to us during the course of the session. I've had some questions emailed through in advance as well, so we should have some good topics to go through today. So just by way of kicking things off, I guess, let me just talk for a couple of moments about social media marketing, and in particular, we're often asked by recruitment businesses and recruitment teams, why aren't we getting any tangible results on social media? We've invested in having a presence. We've got someone in the team who's been made responsible for this. We've really increased, the amount we're sharing on social media, but we can't really point to anything that's actually happening that's really beneficial to the business. We're getting a few more followers. There's maybe a few more comments on some of the things we're sharing, but where are the new clients that we want to work with? Where are the candidates that we've placed that have come from social media? So just talk you through a couple of ideas around how we see recruitment businesses and recruitment teams get the best results from social media. As you listen to this, if you've got particular questions you'd like to have answered today, feel free to put those over in the question box, and we'll turn our attention to those in just a little bit. I think when it comes to social media, and in fact this, I'm sure Giles will comment on this in a minute, but it will be true of broader digital marketing, online recruitment strategies as well. It's really important to start with the end goal in mind and then build everything around that, but not only with the end goal in mind, but with split testing what that end goal is. So what do I mean by that? Well, on the call here today, you are working in recruitment businesses, recruitment technology companies, job boards, in-house recruitment teams, and within your business there are things you would like to happen as a result of social media. So let's say, for example, that your recruitment agency is investing in social media because you want to use it to drive client leads for your business. So the bottom of your funnel there is going to be some desired outcome that you want from social media, and that could be that you have more sales meetings happening each month. It could be that you have people who want to come along to your next business breakfast networking event. It could be that you have potential clients booking in for phone consultations with you or joining a webinar like this that you're running for them. It's really important to start with that outcome in mind and then build everything else you do on social media around that. And what I would also encourage you to do is to split test that, because we don't know, it's pure speculation. Would your potential clients be more inclined to sign up and come to a business breakfast event that you're running, or would they be more inclined to sign up for a free phone consultation about their hiring practices? And until you've gone out into the market and tested different things like that, you don't know which one's going to convert best. So if you're struggling with this within your business, I would say start with that end goal in mind and brainstorm a few ideas of things that you would like to have as an outcome, and then experiment with driving people to do those things during your social media marketing. And then really you work back upwards from that. So if we want to get people to book in for a phone consultation with us or to register for our next business breakfast. You know, there are different ways that we could put that idea in front of them. We could run targeted paid advertising campaigns on social media to drive the right people to a sign-up page. We could interact with our target clients on social media and actually have conversations that ultimately result in us suggesting they might want to sign up for that next business breakfast. And these are things that you would experiment with and that you would get better and better at doing. And depending on your business, you may find that the advertising route works a lot better for your business, or you may find that the personal interaction with clients works a lot better for your business, or perhaps a combination of both is the most effective. And that's something you want to be monitoring and testing and refining over time. And then working up from that, you know, there is a total target audience that you have for what you want in your business. So if you're going after client leads, you know, there is a pool of potential clients for your business of a certain size, and on each social media site, you know, a certain portion of those people can be reached, and a certain portion of those people can be won over as fans and followers of your accounts, meaning that they'll get your updates on an ongoing basis. So if you're in that situation that you've been putting more effort into social media but not been getting the results from that, I'd encourage you to think through whether this is the kind of approach you've had to social media, or whether it's been a bit more haphazard and you've been putting things out on social media hoping something good would happen, but without an actual process in place for getting people through the funnel like this, and for testing the effectiveness of it at each stage. So I hope that's helpful by way of introduction. I don't know, Giles, if you've got any observations on that, or how that applies more broadly to, you know, Google pay-per-click and all sorts of other digital advertising.
Yeah, I think you make a very valid point about the funnel. I think maybe one of the I'll probably jump on this a little bit more later. I think one of the challenges is what you put into the front of the funnel. It's very easy. You know, there are plenty of places online that you can get 3,000 Twitter followers for $100. They would be 3,000 entirely irrelevant Twitter followers. So I think to a very great extent, a lot of the steps that are missed, I mean, I'll probably talk about this a bit later, is the nurturing part of social media is really interesting. That's the part where you do lots of great content marketing. That's where you do lots of candidate engagement, lots of client engagement if you're trying to use social media to win clients. And because it's sexy, because it's cool, because it's great fun, because it's traditional marketing, that's the part that 8 out of 10 social media strategies spend most of their effort on. The bits which aren't sexy, but are actually the bits that matter, are the targeting at the front and the conversion at the back end. And I'll probably talk a bit more about that later. But that, to almost back up what you're saying, I think there's that funnel, and that's where we see probably 8 out of 10 social media strategies go wrong, because they're focusing on what's really, everyone's talking about content marketing. Actually, that's probably the easiest part of a social media strategy.
Yeah, absolutely right. You can have profiles that look great, can't you, with really good content going out, but then how do you get from someone who's reading that content to someone who's actually picked up the phone or met with you in person, or sent you through their CV to, you know, to help place them into the next role? And that's the sort of big step that's missing.
Well, the slightly, and I do this deliberately to slightly be provocative when I see clients and talk about this, but it's a very good argument. Imagine you were a 55-year-old highly specialist engineer. Would an employer's Twitter feed that contained tweets that were relevant to you, but also contained tweets that were for their graduates, also contained tweets for their accountants, also contained tweets for their IT, would you subscribe to that? It's a little bit like you take it in the sporting analogy. If you're a fan of Liverpool, would you subscribe to a newsfeed that contains tweets about Liverpool and every other league club and every other league in the world, or would you actually prefer to find something that is of relevance to you? And it's a really interesting point, because in normal social media, it's very relevant to have a single Twitter feed. So Coca-Cola has a single Twitter feed because you will drink Coca-Cola, I will drink Coca-Cola, my kids and my gran will drink Coca-Cola, and so actually you can have far more of a one-size-fits-all marketing strategy. Within recruitment, arguably, the best possible social strategy is one where actually you have a Twitter feed for your accountants, you have a Twitter feed to attract clients, you have a Twitter feed for your engineers, you have a Twitter feed for your graduates, you have a Twitter feed for each individual area. Now, that is often considered bad practice, but to an extent that's because what's considered good practice is delivered by people who are social media experts rather than recruitment experts. And the other reason it's not done is because that is a heck of a pain. Imagine, most organizations struggle to manage one Twitter feed. Imagine if somebody turned up and said, well, actually, to do this effectively and actually make it deliver return on investment, you've now got to manage 5 Twitter feeds. And this is where, again, to deliver return on investment within social media is a whole different kettle of fish to delivering content marketing, engagement and brand awareness, because actually to manage 5 Twitter feeds, but if you could, it is very, very difficult, massively process intensive, but actually it's very, very possible if you take social media out of the realms of creative content and turn it into a recruitment channel where the only goal is return on investment. And that is it's a really interesting point, talking about whether social media is there to deliver brand awareness or actually deliver return on investment.
Interesting. And you're quite right. When you think of, the leading professional services firms, you think of accountancies, consulting firms, your Accentures, your EYs, your IBMs of this world, just their recruitment teams have multiple Twitter accounts and other social media accounts, different ones per geography and different ones depending on whether they're recruiting for consulting or graduates or accounting or tax. So you're absolutely right. When you take it as far as it is possible to take it, then you make each social media account be bespoke to a particular audience you're trying to engage with.
I think this is one of the questions, and this is the difference, I think, between marketing and recruitment. The theory behind recruitment is that you want to have a one-to-one conversation with the right candidate. That is the principle, that's the fundamental principle behind recruitment. You don't want to advertise in 10 different places, you want to advertise in the one place that the right candidate, you only want one application for a job, but it wants to be the best candidate who will take that job. Now all of a sudden, we've got all this technology that allows you to have more and more personalized conversations, more and more targeting, and yet a lot of social media strategies seem to be that one size fits all, one Twitter feed, spray it out to as many people as you can possibly reach with it. And it's like gathering, again, I'm using engineering as an example because I know there's a global shortage of engineers, but it could be any area, digital where there's a global shortage, or any area where there's a shortage of candidates. The idea of gathering relevant people and giving them relevant conversations and relevant communication, and the closer you can get to a one-to-one, entirely targeted conversation rather than mass communication, the better. But that has to be at the heart of your social media strategy, because as it stands, most social media strategies are one Twitter feed, 4,000 followers, one message really relevant for 4,000 different people with no selection criteria. Question.
Absolutely agree. the ongoing challenge. So, Giles, thanks ever so much there for contributing thoughts. What I'd love to do is throw this open to questions from the audience, and I've had some sent in ahead of the call as well. So please do use that question box, and whatever questions you'd like to throw to Giles or myself, go ahead and do that. But one maybe to kick us off with, Giles, is a lot of focus on social media and social recruiting at the moment. In your experience, how effective still are job boards and things like Google pay-per-click against the backdrop of social stealing all the headlines?
Well, here's the interesting one. So, Enhanced Media, as hopefully many of you on the call will know, we are a data-first company. So we started off in research, and probably one of our very largest areas is in terms of analytics. And whilst this is not true for everybody, absolutely not true for everybody, if I averaged the analytics reports across all of our clients, it would read something like applications 50% from SEO, 20% from something like pay-per-click, there would be 20% from job boards, 9% or 8% from other areas, and 2% from social media. Numerically, there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that social media, performance-wise, dramatically underperforms in comparison to the amount of money that is often spent on it. Now, that doesn't mean, and so the obvious next question that I always get asked is, therefore, should we not spend money on social media? Well, the first answer is always spend money on the channels that perform best for you first. So anybody who has a social media strategy but doesn't have an SEO strategy, given that SEO provides over half of all traffic, half of all applications, and has got the highest conversion rate of any recruitment channel, I believe is not perhaps as sensible as it should be. But having got the channels in the right order, prioritized and invested in, then social media can deliver return on investment. But at the moment, to answer your question, at the moment it dramatically underperforms in terms of ROI and is dramatically over-prioritized in comparisons with other channels that can deliver higher after higher after higher. So I would say, A, get everything organized, and then B, get social media with a focus on ROI.
Interesting. And so going back to the question specifically, job boards and Google pay-per-click, you would expect that to be just under a third of all applications?
There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Google pay-per-click outperforms social media. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever. One of the benefits of Google pay-per-click is that all results are guaranteed. Because you actually only pay when somebody clicks, you can't guarantee hires and you can't guarantee applications because they are still influenced by the quality of a website and the quality of your conversion message. But if it costs £1 per click, for argument's sake, and you put £1,000 into Google pay-per-click, you will receive 1,000 visitors to your website who are of pretty good targeting if you've set your pay-per-click up right. Now again, we see lots of organisations waste a huge amount of money on pay-per-click because it's not the right targeting, but pay-per-click will perform. In terms of job boards, it's very interesting. What's happening in the job board market is there is a movement to the extremes. So the middle ground job boards are really, really struggling. You will find there's a big movement towards one end, which is the huge generalists. Your things like Indeed, people like the Total Jobs, Monster if they can pull their act together, and all of the larger job sites, etc., all of the large job boards which aim to provide a one-stop shop. Those ones are almost a race to the lowest price. All of those are very low cost, pile them high. We read have got 250,000 plus jobs on their site. The other end of the spectrum is the highly specialist job boards. They're the ones who have been able to maintain their margins. Because if you run nuclearsecurityjobs.com, you know you have such a targeted audience that you can charge a client £750 to advertise on your website. So it's very interesting to see in terms of the effectiveness of job boards, the race to the bottom and the race to volume is at one end, hence Indeed is a massive, massive player from that perspective, and the other end is that really, really targeted niche, and those are the ones that to an extent can help deliver placements, because you know if you place a job on nuclearengineers.com, nuclearengineeringjobs.com anyway, you are going to be communicating with nuclear engineers.
Really good points, Giles. Thank you. And questions coming in there, do continue to send those in, please. One that's coming in is asking how you would recommend getting clients rather than candidates over social media. Do you have any thoughts or case examples of that?
Yeah, now clients are easier to win via social media than candidates, because actually clients have a level of commonality, whereas your 55-year-old engineer has very little in common with your 21-year-old accounting graduate. Actually, all clients have got certain commonality, because they are all looking to solve a recruitment problem, which means that you can actually get your investment to go much further, because you're not having to split your attention, not having to dilute it quite so much. In terms of clients, this is where it comes down to quality of engagement and quality of understanding. Again, you can look at 10 different Twitter feeds that are aimed at clients, and it's a spamathon. The ability to provide high quality, useful, valuable insight is still something that employers want. Every employer, I mean, the whole reason that this call exists is because nobody actually has got the silver bullet yet. Everybody is looking for it. So if you are able to communicate effectively with clients and persuade them that you have at least got some kind of a gun, if not the silver bullet, then you're able to convert them. Social media is also a very effective means of doing that, because you're able to have a two-way conversation. Of course, if you're trying to sell to clients, that's what you want. You want to be able to have that two-way conversation. So I would, again, I think it's quite interesting. If you look at our clients, certainly the recruitment consultancies, a lot of them are moving their budgets on social media away from candidate attraction and towards client attraction, because there is an argument that LinkedIn has democratized candidate attraction. So now actually in theory, every candidate is available and actually relatively well searched, and many recruitment consultancies turn around and say they don't suffer from a shortage of candidates. They will all say they suffer from a shortage of really high quality candidates, but that's a whole different matter. So a lot of our clients are starting to move investment towards attracting clients, and also the ROI becomes much simpler, because if you spend money attracting candidates, you might only place 1 in 150 candidates that interacts with you on social media, whereas actually if you said to a recruitment consultancy, I can get you a social media stream full of 150 target organisations that you want to deal with, that's worth millions of pounds of potential new revenue. So it becomes something that's a lot easier to justify ROI on. So I think that if I was a recruitment consultancy, I would spend my social media money more on client attraction than I would on candidate attraction instantly.
That's a really interesting point, Giles, and I'd certainly echo that, and I would stress, from all the accounts we work on, you've got to try and have conversations with people. Conversations are where most of the value from social media actually comes, and looking out for, and not just looking out for, but turning into a process the way that you're going to find opportunities to have conversations with your exact target client audience. That's the absolute key to it. In our business, we will bring in between 250 and 400 potential new clients into the business each month as leads, and those will have been originated through social media. But the vast majority of them come not from advertising to reach those clients, but from having found them on social media and having found excuses to start a conversation with them. So, for example, if you're a recruitment agency and you have invested in having some content on your site, one really easy thing to do is to look out for everyone who shares your posts on social media, because that is a hit list of people that it's incredibly easy to start a conversation with. What you want to do is start the conversation in a way that isn't salesy. And obviously, if someone's just shared a post from your site, it's very easy to jump in and thank them for having shared that out of interest. What was it in the article that particularly resonated with you, or the article was about 5 challenges for recruitment post Brexit. Which of those 5 is the biggest challenge in your business? And you get the conversation started. And it's so straightforward to get dozens of conversations being started every day, if you've turned this into a process and if you've got the resource behind it to make that happen, and then it really is just a conversion game. You know, out of all the conversations you have, how many of those people, when you drop into the conversation, you know, would you like to jump on a call, or would it be helpful to meet up for a coffee or whatever? You know, how many of those then convert into someone saying, yes, you know, I would like to meet, or I would like to come to that business breakfast. But you're absolutely right, Giles. They're a lot more uniform, your potential clients, than the candidates that you might need as a business at that particular moment in time. So I think we've probably done that one justice, Giles. Unless you've got any other any other thoughts to add.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think you say social media brilliant for client attraction, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, terrific. Any particular tools that you would recommend for building your social media presence or engaging and interacting with people?
Yeah, there are two, and there'll be the two that are rarest mentioned. The most important tool, social media, Google Analytics. The number, I mean, it'd be very interesting to do sort of a straw poll on people on this call, turn around and say, how many people have got accurate, good metrics about social media? And I don't mean the number of followers, because that's an artificial metric. I don't mean the number of engagements, because that's an artificial metric. Actually, what's a real metric is the number of people that go from social media and then interact with your recruitment brand, that then go through to hire, that then go through to apply, that look at more than 4 pages on your website, that spend more than 3 minutes on your website, that look at a page on your website that is actually relevant to the tweet. There's no, you know, otherwise it's very easy to jump from page to page by mistake. That's all achievable. It is all achievable for free using Google Analytics. But again, the problem is it's not sexy. There are really, really sexy social media tools which can help do multiple posts, everything from Hootsuite through to really great content stuff, through to infographics. Let's create an infographic, but then let's not measure it, in my opinion, is a lot worse than let's create a piece of text and measure the heck out of it so that we can actually figure out whether it's worked or not and improve what we do next time. Nobody gets it right first time, but if you don't measure something, there's an argument that all you're doing is, well, we call it the pay and pray or the pay and spray approach. So Google Analytics is almost certainly the most important software tool. The second most important software tool, again, is actually not to do with delivering social media. It is getting some kind of a research tool at the front end of their social media solution. So it's interesting. The part that I agree with you entirely, Tony, is when you put your pipeline up, is that you talked about split testing and A/B testing. I'd go a stage further and say, before you actually do anything, why invest money in a social media channel before you know your candidates or your clients are using it? It's interesting that there are now probably about 8, maybe 10 social media channels that are suitable for recruitment. You obviously your big 4, plus then you start to add in Pinterest, Instagram, bits and pieces like that. Why not do a piece of research and find out which your candidates are doing? So whenever we do any form of social media for a client, we say, right, first things first, actually, you're thinking of investing in 8 channels. Let's ask your candidates, and we always come back and find that at least 2 of those channels are simply not suitable. Now, arguably, that saved 25% of a client's budget before they start work. So, again, and then I'm being deliberately slightly confrontational. What's a friendly word than that? Slightly provocative on this call, because you can line social media experts in a row from here to Glasgow and back who will talk about the beauty of content marketing, and you can listen to 50 webinars that say that. I want to try to actually say, well, actually, there's no point doing this brilliant content if you're putting it on a channel where your candidates aren't, so buy some research first, and there's no point doing this beautiful content if you then don't measure it really effectively using Google Analytics, which is absolutely and entirely free. And there are 2 different ways of using Google Analytics. One is a strategic tagging, and the other is called URL parameter tracking. Do those 2, and then you have finally got a chance of making your entire social media completely accountable. They're the 2 tools that I would use before I used any funky, sexy recruitment social media tool.
Completely agree, Giles. And one of the things that we always recommend is that you start off with a period of detailed research, figure out where your audience is, figure out what they are interested in on social media, not by guesswork or brainstorming sessions, but by actually using the tools that give you that data and establish which of the sites you're going to reach them best on, and what type of content are they interested in and interacting with on social media. Because as you say, there's no point you coming out with a fancy infographic on what you think will be of interest to them if that's just going to fall totally flat or not be seen by the right people because they're not on that particular platform. So yeah, totally agree. There's a follow-on question to that come through, which was so LinkedIn is the key social media networking site to attract clients and candidates, but what are your opinions and experiences of using Instagram, Facebook, Twitter to search and talk to either clients or candidates?
Okay, so if you are ordering social media channels in terms of effectiveness, undoubtedly LinkedIn is number one. We don't even call LinkedIn a social media channel anymore because actually we separate it out into its own channel. So we talk about LinkedIn as a strategy, and then social media, everything else falls into that because LinkedIn is now so ubiquitous, so important and so vital. Within your social media channels, Facebook is increasing in importance. There was a period of time where it was very much Facebook's my personal network, leave me alone on there, you can talk to me on Twitter and LinkedIn. The growth of Facebook and the strength of Facebook is making it so that it is more valuable. Of course, there's the obvious demographics of people who are younger, the Gen Ys, Gen Zs, etc., who will be more used to interacting and looking for jobs on Facebook. Also, the new Facebook Jobs tab, there's a very strong argument that they are going directly after LinkedIn. So Facebook is a there or thereabouts. Twitter can be an amazing platform. I think with all of these things, it's a case of what it can deliver rather than actually what it is delivering for many organisations now. After that, I would probably then put Glassdoor. Obviously, Glassdoor is not from a candidate perspective, sorry, from a client perspective, but from a candidate perspective. Glassdoor, every really sharp, cutthroat salesperson that used to work for LinkedIn has moved to either Indeed or to Glassdoor, and are very talented. I should say, very talented salespeople, but their Glassdoor and Indeed are on the sales trail like nobody's business at the moment, and so they are pushing very hard. I'd probably put Indeed. Indeed are making a big push to become a social channel. It's very interesting. They started putting reviews on there, started putting company profiles. I think within the next 12 months we will be talking about Indeed as a huge global social channel. After that, you have your Pinterests, your Instagrams, which again, they're lovely, can be very innovative, very exciting, but until you are getting ROI from Facebook, from Twitter, from Glassdoor, they have to be nice to haves. And then they can be very useful, they can add a lot to your brand, they can be very creative. Creative agencies love using them because they're very visual. But in terms of pure, hard, will they help you improve your recruitment and find candidates and place them, they're simply not as effective as what would say sort of the big four.
I'd sort of endorse those points, Giles, and add to them. Twitter, I think, I would say is the leading social site for starting conversations with people, be that clients or be that candidates, just by the simple nature that obviously tweets are short, and so it's easy to interact with people in a way that's not threatening or overly salesy. And in the time it would take for you to interact properly with someone on LinkedIn or Google Plus, you could have started a conversation with half a dozen people on Twitter in that same time, and I generally find people are more receptive to replying and replying quickly on Twitter. So from that side, I would say Twitter is great. Facebook, I think. It's the ability to advertise to the audience you want to reach, and in particular, re-advertise, retarget people. That's where the real power of Facebook lies. So if you've had, if you look at your Google Analytics, as Giles rightly says, and you see that you've got, X thousand candidates coming to your site each month, but how many of those leave without doing something? And the ability on Facebook to take that audience and say, okay, let's run adverts in their Facebook streams that encourage them back to the site with some new information, with some new inducements to take whatever course of action it is we want them to take. That is Facebook's real power, I think, and they have such a huge user base each day. They have, a lot of advertising space to sell relative to LinkedIn. LinkedIn's problem is actually that the majority of LinkedIn users aren't using the site even weekly. The majority are only on there once a month, and so advertising to people on LinkedIn is pretty expensive because they actually have a relatively limited amount of ad inventory to sell, compared with Facebook, who just have 1 billion users a day using the site, and so have advertising space coming out of their ears to sell, which makes it very powerful for anyone wanting to advertise to a particular audience or in particular retarget. So thanks for those questions. Do keep them coming in if there's other things you'd like to ask about. You talked, Giles, about search engine optimization being, the #1 source of candidate traffic for a lot of your clients and businesses you work with. A question is, any suggestions on how to get better Google rankings? What could a business do to try and achieve that?
Okay, relatively simple. Search engine optimization. Google's rankings is made up of 2 factors. One is on-site, one is off-site. In terms of on-site, there are about 200 markers that Google looks for in terms of ranking your site, of which there are 25 that are the most relevant to recruitment. If you get those 25 right, then you have a much better chance of succeeding in Google rankings. In terms of off-site, this is not as easy as it used to be, because you can't just simply spam links, you can't simply request links. Lots of people ask for money for links now. But again, the interesting thing with Google, and this is something we say, is when people say, oh, Google's changed its algorithm, Google's updated its algorithm, Google's changed this. Google has never ever changed what it wants. Google wants the best and most relevant experience for its users. All that's happened is that Google's getting better and better and better at figuring out what makes that accurate. So this is things, so actually delivering a site to best practice standards, particularly those 25 on-site standards, that's what will help you more than anything else to get better rankings. You can't cheat Google now. There used to be a case of, we'll figure out the Google algorithm. Just won't happen now. It's now about following the rules, but doing it in the absolute best practice. And that's implementing over a period of 2 years, and it will take 2 years to implement absolutely everything, but you can get quick results within sort of 3 months, particularly on-site, those on-site factors. That's the big thing.
Thanks ever so much, Giles. I can't profess to be an expert there, so it's really useful to hear your insights on that. One last one here. How do you recommend growing your social media audience? So if you have established that your particular target audience is on a site, any sort of overall things you should focus on doing to grow that audience?
Yeah, there are 2 ways to grow your social media audience. One is organic, one is paid for. The organic is a beautiful thing, but is very complex and quite slow. So organic is about connecting with influencers. So again, if you're running an accountancy Twitter feed, for argument's sake, then find other Twitter feeds, post into them, find people who are prominent on other Twitter feeds and connect with them, ask them specifically one-to-one to retweet things. It's much, if you think about it, how do you grow the number of people that will come to your party in the real world? And that is a case of going out there, asking people, finding the most popular kids at school and asking them to come and bring their mates. That's the organic way. The non-organic way is paid advertising. And in this instance, this is where PPC comes to the fore, because PPC can be guaranteed. The problem is you put an advert in on, I don't know, Recruitment International or on Rec, very, very good those both publications may well be. You don't know how many people are going to see it and how many people are going to actually make an impact. Whereas with PPC, you do. You can say again, I'll pay £1 every time somebody clicks on a link which says, why not follow us on social media? Or probably you'd have to use a content teaser rather than why not follow us. But you can have complete accountability. And very interestingly, it can be cheaper. And this is a nuance of LinkedIn, because LinkedIn's PPC is very expensive. It is actually cheaper to grow your LinkedIn following by doing PPC off LinkedIn and directing people to LinkedIn than it is to actually use LinkedIn's own PPC. That's because LinkedIn's own PPC is about 3.5 times more expensive than either Google PPC or other areas of PPC. But there are two ways: organic, smart, beautiful, wonderful, slow, time-consuming, complex, paid advertising, more expensive, faster, quicker, easier.
Yeah, and I would wholeheartedly support that, Giles. I think a lot of smaller recruitment businesses I speak with, they have someone who has a few spare hours, and so they want to try and do it the organic way, and fall into the trap of thinking, I've already paid for this person, so I'm going to put them to work trying to grow it organically. But actually, if you could have got the followers you needed with an outlay, and then that person could have been spending that time interacting with those followers rather than trying to win them in the first place, that could well have been a much better investment of their time. So yeah, very good split of the two options there. Okay, well, I think we've come to the end of the questions we've had through, so I'd just like to finish and thank Giles very much for taking the time to be with us today. I will ensure you all have a recording of this goes out next week. If you'd like to share it with any friends and colleagues, you're welcome to. But Giles, thanks ever so much, and have a great weekend, everyone.
A pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye for now.